Stream. Are we streaming? Not yet. Almost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Welcome back to Her Rules, Her Rise, where we speak bold truth with sacred love. I'm so excited to be here today with my two lovely co-hosts, Danielle Dittberner and Dr. Ann Katona Lynn. Today, we're going to explore the emotional side of money, how trauma impacts spending or saving or your financial self-worth. And we're going to talk a little bit about the emotional roots of financial fear, fear of wealth, fear of getting rich, and how trauma in our lives shape our beliefs, behaviors, and nervous system responses around money. And I'd like to remind everyone that this is a safe and shame-free space for reflection and healing. So welcome, everybody. So I'd like to start out by asking, what exactly do we mean by trauma? So I'd just like to raise that question. And Dr. Ann, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Great to be with you again. This is definitely a topic that is close to my heart. So, trauma is an event. So, I want you to think about three E's. So, it's an event or a series of events that a person or collective group of people experience and that it has lasting effects. So, that E. So, three E's: event, experience, effects. One of the key things about trauma is that it can be very subtle how it impacts you. You may think you're fine, and yet it can impact your health. It impacts your mental health and wellness, your physical health, meaning you may get sick more often. Again, it just impacts your health in a lot of ways, and it especially it impacts your brain. So the functioning of the brain and how it actually processes our genetics. So our genetics are kind of changed when we have trauma, when trauma is a part of our life, and that can get passed down from generation to generation. And the key is, again, very subtle, socially, academically. Absolutely, it impacts kids. I work a lot in schools, impacts kids academically. So just think about if you're really stressed, you're going to have trouble learning, you're going to have trouble doing your job, you're going to have trouble doing a lot of different things. And like I said, a lot of times it's very subtle, but it can really, the lasting effects could be potentially post-traumatic stress disorder. That would be a whole other conversation. We will share some links in the information for this episode so that we're sharing some key things. So if you need to look for more information and want to hear more, we'd love to share that with you. So
Great, Dr. Ann. So looking back at your childhood or your life, how would you say trauma, what would be the connection between that and your attitude towards money today?
yeah. So for me, I was in a car accident when I was 4 years old, ended up having post-traumatic stress disorder, sort of knew it, but kind of just self-medicated for my entire life. And with that, though, my self-worth, like I always felt like something was wrong with me. So because my self-worth was low, even though on the outside it didn't look like it, I often kind of looked at money as a way to look good, I think, on the outside or, be successful. I think a lot of times I didn't think I was worthy to be successful, and yet I equated really money with a lot of those things because that's kind of what society teaches, especially in the United States. And so for me, it was, that not feeling worthy and, really kind of becoming a high achiever. I was constantly doing things so that I could achieve and show that I'm worthy and I'm successful, though, that's not always that's not always a positive in terms of obviously it can impact our own health. And that doesn't always mean money. And I think I had issues with spending and managing my spending at times, and sometimes it's just to help other people.
Mhm.
Yet that doesn't make it any less of me responding out of my trauma. Because again, I was trying to prove myself. So I used money by helping people and doing things for people. And that was really, not healthy. And so it created more issues in the long run.
Mm.
Wow, that's good that you can notice that today, even
Yeah.
though when it was happening, you didn't know what the effects would be or the outcome. That's
Yeah.
great. And how about you, Danielle? How do you feel like any traumatic events, either subtle or major,
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
affected you today? Yeah.
This kind of builds off of last week's session of where my experience comes from is a lot of my trauma was family trauma. And the way that growing up, it was very much that we were just walking on eggshells all of the time to help keep the peace within the home and to not ignite my stepfather in any way.
Mm.
And a big part of that was his bit of control with money.
Yeah.
We'll just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I learned on a very subtle way that I have to figure out how to be self-sustainable. And I can never rely on a man
Mm-hmm.
to be able to be a healthy form of stability. Um, and so, again, very similar to what you were saying, Dr. Ann, of I needed to then prove myself, prove my worth, and I had to work very hard at everything that I did. In high school, I was working 2 to 3 jobs in high school to make sure that I had enough money that could help provide for myself while I was in college because I knew I wasn't going to have the bandwidth to be able to study or work as much and then study to pay the bills. And then that really, whenever I was married, that still carried through. And I just remember one thing that my former husband had said was, what yours is mine, and what is mine is mine.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was a hard one,
Wow.
really hard one to be with.
That's brutal.
And,
Yeah.
at that point, again, I was working in the bank, and that was almost an awakening moment for me of realizing, wait a second, this is also some of my past coming up of everything that I'm working for is to support myself, but also now my family. And yet, what is that doing for me? I don't feel safe by not having my own money to be able to take care of myself. And so I've had to unpack a lot of that and realize that, you know, money is not what actually keeps me safe. And working constantly to create more financial stability still is also not healthy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't value being a workaholic, though I love what I do. And sometimes that's something that gets in my way, is not over identifying with the work that I do too.
Mm.
Absolutely. So I think we all kind of found that common theme where working and money, whether or not money is related to the amount of work we do, it's kind of there to fill this hole inside of us that we don't feel good enough or we don't feel like we deserve. And so we
Mhm.
overcompensate, and that's how what's running our lives, right, for the past couple of decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much about money is equal to power. So if someone has money, they can have control over you. And if you don't get the things you want, then you feel like you don't deserve. So there's this vicious cycle going around, which is pretty prevalent, I think, in a lot of society today still. But it's good to be aware of all this. So Yeah, that leads me to the next question, which is kind of related to this, but what emotional patterns have showed up when you think about money and handling money? And this might come up in your relationships, your marriage, when you have to, partner with money. Um, Dr. Ann, would you like to fill us in on that?
Yeah, and I sort of mentioned about overspending some, and um, when it, I was a teenager, and I just remember because I'm the youngest of seven, and I kind of heard different things about about who was most expensive. Like you just hear different things from your parents, and I just remember that I didn't want to have anyone control me. So I wanted to, really kind of again prove myself, and I wanted to be cheap. Like I didn't want to cost anybody anything. And so again comes back to my worth. And so what I did was I ended up getting in debt and I'm a Gen X, and so back in the day they used to be at the campuses giving you credit cards like they were water. Like it was just crazy, and they really set us up for failure. I've been seeing a lot more about how Gen X really kind of struggled in many ways, but it was so easily accessible for us. And I kind of justified like I need to do this because I need to be independent and I need to take care of everything myself. And this pattern has definitely carried over, as well as avoidance of really seeing what was going on. Like I didn't really get into the details of it. I kind of was living paycheck to paycheck. And that was, and yeah, working three jobs while I was in school. I put myself through college. I paid for all of my college. And so, again, yeah, it's when I get money, I don't know how to handle it. Like in terms of even saving, I've gotten so much better. I mean, obviously, though that debt piece has carried, that has been something that over the years, again, I've obviously gotten much more of a handle on it. It's just that that's something I think that avoidance of dealing with money and not really knowing what my money is doing and how much, like really breaking down how much debt I had. Again, I paid for my student loans. I did all that. Yet, if I really think about it and looked at it, I would have a lot more interest that I would have paid. Plus, this other pattern of I don't ask for money, like I don't negotiate for jobs as much as I should. Again, I've improved, yet it's something that I think that feeling unworthy. So, and I want to give them the biggest bang for their buck. And sometimes that is too much time, like I was teaching a college class, and if I broke down what my hourly rate was, it was not good because I was doing so much to kind of make sure that I was doing a good job. And so that I think is a challenge. And that's not good for me in anyone that I'm around. So those are kind of some of the big things that I think those are the emotional patterns I had.
Yes, and Dr. Ann, you're not alone. I think so many women today still undervalue themselves, and they're,
Mhm.
compared to a man of equal level in a company or something, they don't ask for the salary increases or the titles, that they really deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how about you, Danielle? What would you like to
Yeah.
share?
Um, it's reminding me of times that, I actually was really good at negotiating my worth in
Oh,
previous roles.
good.
And I think that part of it was stemmed from, oh, I need to take care of myself. Nobody else is going to do this for me. I have to do it for myself. Um, when I left my role at Chase Bank, I went to the Kelley School of Business. And whenever I got that position, they gave me an offer that was substantially lower than what I originally, whenever I was getting recruited for that position, was told.
Mhm.
And so instead of shrinking down, I stood up stronger and said, wait,
Mhm.
this is a shock to me because it's substantially different. by me taking this role, I would be cutting myself short from what I'm currently making. I would need it to be at least at X dollar amount.
Mm.
And they actually came back with a counter offer that was right there.
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Kudos to
Good.
you.
And yeah, because I knew what my worth was. Now, can I say that I've kept that? No. Like I think with each layer or level that we go upon, like it's natural that we have some of these old patterns or old narratives that come back up. Because I can say when I went into entrepreneurship, talk about giving tons of time away and not charging,
Mm.
and then charging a little bit more and a little bit more. It was something that I was telling within myself whether I was worthy of that money or those hours. And it was because I didn't have the confidence in myself. And so I didn't think that it was acceptable to be charging a client something that I didn't think I was worthy of. And so I had to really work through that thought process and that pattern to the point where now, yes, sometimes I will have that voice. And I actually, I name that voice, the inner critic, the one that doesn't value and have worth. Sorry to all the Brians out there, but that is Brian, because it's my brain when it's not in service of me. And so I do have to quiet that, and just remind myself that it's not about what I'm worth.
Mhm.
Because I and everybody, your worth is priceless.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And what we give is priceless. It's more that this is just an energetic, a currency exchange, if you will.
Mm.
And whenever give myself that reminder, it's like, oh yeah, I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to be worrying about any kind of survival because I am. I'm already there.
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Perfect. Perfect. So you feel like you're a little more balanced now than you were
Hmm.
back in the day. And
Yeah.
Dr. Ann also mentioned that she's been evolving, right? So I also noticed that I've been course correcting. So my mindset way back when I just finished college and the way I feel now is quite different, right? Now I'm able to manage my finances quite well. I no longer have debt.
Hmm.
But then the question is, how did you interrupt these patterns? How did you evolve? What techniques did you use or skills? Was it anything extremely memorable, or was it just adjusting to what's not working and doing something that works?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Dr. Ann, would you like to?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is again kind of it's a process. So it's been definitely not linear, no straight
Yeah.
line, lots of different things. And I think as I've done more trauma work, and I have done a lot with EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and it is really powerful for kind of taking past trauma and making our allowing our brains to really heal and look at those past traumas more objectively rather than having the emotions kind of hijack our brains, our amygdalas. And so that's been a big piece, though it wasn't specifically tied to money, though I have seen that has helped me to be able to be a little bit more focused. And I think especially in the last, well, probably since I've been married, there have been again a lot of different things. I had this is my first marriage, and we've been together for 19 years. Just kind of, I did so much on my own, and that wasn't a good thing in that I, again, I kind of hid things from my husband and that, those pieces. So I think uh, over the past several years of as I've done more specific trauma work and even doing more specific EMDR around money, that recognizing, and like I said, I've seen it over the years, but in terms of it to really shift, kind of help me to shift, I've just connected a lot more with women. So like connecting with the two of you, connecting, there's a Dow Janes, and I've done things with them. They've had webinars, and just the power of looking that, it's breaking that mindset and the inner voice saying that I'm not worthy. And what is it that I value? What do I want to be? So shifting that, and really just connecting with other women and having these conversations around money. I feel like that's really helped me the most. And then I'm able to take it into therapy and kind of get a little bit deeper, and do other, like, my husband and I have done like Bible devotions on money, the Ramsey courses, a variety of things. And so I think all of those again are helping to learn things that I didn't necessarily learn as a kid. So, or undo some of the things that I've learned. So, and my
Yeah.
husband's pretty good at, like, he's pretty good at not having debt. So
That's great.
yeah, he's been
Yeah.
teaching me. So it's good.
Yeah, I can relate to what you said, Dr. Ann, because when you're doing it by yourself, you might have certain habits and patterns you're not aware of. Then you get into a relationship or a marriage, and all of a sudden, all of that becomes, very
Yes.
apparent. And then you got to watch out who you're partnering with and what their relationship with money is, because now you're a team, right? And there's
Yeah.
X amount. So that was really interesting. Danielle, would you like to help us out with?
Before I share, I actually have a clarifying question for you, Dr. Yan.
Yeah.
You said that you were doing things on your own and
Yeah.
that was problematic. Are you meaning that once you guys were married or while you guys were married, that you were still keeping things to yourself and not being open and upfront with him? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Which again, just that lying, and that hiding things because it was such an automatic thing in my life. And that's the way,
Yeah.
again, I know there were things that my parents each had that the other didn't know, again, because we didn't learn all those things. So yes.
And that was modeled to you. So that was something that subconsciously
Mhm.
you had to really learn and unlearn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And it's scary. It is
sure.
not easy.
Yeah.
But
But at
her
the
marriage
same time,
survived as a result of it because of the communication, give and take,
Yeah.
maybe generosity on both sides, right? But it can
and
be worked
and
out.
and freedom. Like I feel like since I've been really much more transparent, I feel so much more free. And I actually my self-worth has improved
Yes.
because I'm being transparent. Like, yes,
Yes.
I screwed up, and and again, my husband's been great. And so it's kind of like it's freedom. It's actually freedom. So
Yeah. I think that's something that I've always admired so much about you and Mark is that
mm,
even when you've had difficulties, you're always able to find that middle ground where you come back together and you're having those hard, excuse me, transparent conversations.
mm.
And boy, is that not at the root of love?
It's again not always easy. He has had his own trauma with money. And so again, we all come bringing our own baggage, and we have to make sure we're looking at it and being honest. And
Mhm.
for us, our faith is huge. Like, let's pray before we even talk about this stuff because
Yeah.
it brings up a lot. And so
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I
Love
appreciate
that.
that.
Yeah. Um, so I can't remember the exact question, but what's coming up for me is, oh, tools.
Yeah.
Tools of like what's
Just
helped.
to interrupt
Yeah,
the pattern.
absolutely. It's been a process of unlearning. And for me, what has been really helpful is in those moments where I'm catching myself in a money battle, is really being able to have a conversation with somebody who not only is in my corner, but hears me and understands me And that, yeah, like I have open conversations about money with people because it's nothing more than, again, another currency.
Exactly.
And so in times where I'm noticing I'm spiraling, like you're saying about getting in the amygdala hijack,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much easier for me to even call somebody and say, hey, this is where I'm at. And a lot of times those friends will be able to say, why is this a thing? Like, for example, the paying for a checked bag for my trip.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got out of that and was like, wait, let me just use some clarity here of logical processing. That's an hour of time by just paying for the bag. How much stress is that relieving? Way
Mm-hmm.
more than just an hour of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's partnering. That partnering is what helps pull me out of the amygdala, which essentially that's bringing us from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, right? Because we're partnering, we're connecting with another person. That's infusing us with oxytocin instead of having the cortisol running through our system. So that's my trick.
Yeah.
Lean into more oxytocin, have more laughter, have community, have connection.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So, and I also think there's just look back to your childhood because that's where some of the most our values about money and our self-worth were established. So if you need to go back and do some inner child work, that might help to free you up because sometimes we work in layers and we think we're okay, we're doing fine, but then there's something else that we didn't deal with, right? So that's what I did at one point.
Mm. Yeah. And just to
And
kind of add to that, one thing I've heard is that some people, and some people are wondering, like, why are you still trying to work on yourself? I'm like, I'm going to be doing that till the day I die. I don't know. It's
I
just
know
kind of
exactly.
like there's nothing wrong with that. It's not that you're trying to fix something that's broken. It's
yeah,
that you're trying to just be the best that you can be
Absolutely.
without like you can still be content and use things to try and grow. Like to me, like I said, it's learning till the day I die because
Exactly.
with ADHD, my brain won't allow me to stop. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
yeah,
So again,
Exactly.
all of these tools, there's no shame in it. Though I've heard that in several conversations recently that not people specifically asking me that, but that somebody's partner asked them that. And it's kind of like, that's a shift. Like, what's the shame around growing, around ourselves growing? I don't know. So that's, I think, a key thing with this.
yeah,
There's no shame. We're all constantly evolving and it's like, what is true wealth, right? True wealth is actually understanding who you are and your relationship to the world. And of course,
hmm
that includes money and wealth
Yeah.
down to the core.
yeah,
So I'd like to just reflect a little bit before we close here. And, money is really not just about math or numbers in the bank account or what's in your wallet, right? It's actually much deeper than that. It
yeah,
reflects on your meaning, your meaning about life, the memories you have, your relationship with yourself and with the people who are close to you. And today we talked about emotional patterns around money, and we want to remind you just do not feel shame about it. Just to be curious about what your relationship is to money and to yourself and how it's impacting you. So invite all the listeners today to just reflect on their own and do some journaling and hopefully what some of our insights that Danielle and Dr. Ann and myself brought to you is going to help you look at everything in a different way. So our next episode next week is going to be Authentic AF, what leadership really takes. So I'd like to invite you to join two of my lovely co-hosts, Danielle and Dr. Ann. We're three voices, one mission to heal, lead, and live fully without apology.